Well, I have a short word for you because the only thing between you and this delicious lunch is me right now. And I see the eyes. But I do want to say something to you before this year ends in just a couple days and the next year begins. And I want to remind you that we, all of us, not just Bill, not just me or anybody that's in platform full-time ministry, we have a calling on our lives. We are selected for the time we live in. 2025, as I've said, is the first year, so 3 days away from the first year of the second half of the 20s. Yeah, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. That's the first half. The second half of the 20s is about to begin, and you're in it. You're going to live in it. And you're responsible for what you say, what you do, the things that you accomplish in the time that we have. And we are closer to the return of Jesus than we ever were in the history of mankind. We don't know when it's going to be, but just think about it. If it happens tonight, right? In our theology in the Alliance is there's 7 years, right? The tribulation comes. Jesus returns, takes us home. Then he returns again after the 7 years and begins his 1,000-year millennial reign on the earth. That will be around 2031. So, like we don't have many Olympics or, presidential elections between that, if it happens tonight. But we are so close. But I want to say to you about this, is that when I say we're going into the second half of the 20s, how does that make you feel? Does it energize you? Frustrate you? Does it give you anxiety? You didn't think you'd live this long. The question I have is, do you feel like you are fulfilling the calling that you have for your life? Are you completing the purposes that you have for your life? As we're stepping into a new year, do you feel excited? And do you know what your calling is? Do you know the purpose you have? Do you know the gifts that God's gifted you with so he could use you in the time that we have? And then how about this? Do you feel like we just arbitrarily pass through time, or is there purpose set out for us? And I know I have a teaching about it. In Ecclesiastes says, to everything there's a season and a time for every purpose. My belief is that you have a time for every purpose and a purpose for every time. But it requires understanding this, and that requires vision. Do you have vision for the future? I believe that vision is connected to purpose and destiny for each of us. There's a Christian cliche that's out there. It says, do you know that God loves you and has a wonderful plan for your life? And I say it's cliche because people say it, and do they mean it? Do you receive it? But it really is true. The first part is definitely true. God loves you. Jeremiah 31:3 says, I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have drawn you with loving kindness. But he does have a wonderful plan for your life. Jeremiah, again, 29:11 says, I know the plans. Yeah, plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans. Not just, inadvertent, nonchalant, off the cuff blessings, but plans to give you a hope, to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. And as often as we've heard this, sometimes we have a hard time receiving it or envisioning it. See, when we don't fully understand that God loves us and has a plan for us, it's easy to become disenchanted or disillusioned. It's easy to become disappointed in the life we have and what we're facing. When I was planting a church in Nashville, I've told you sometimes when we opened up our new building, we had guest speaker was Max Lucado, and he said these things that I've never forgotten, these several quotes, but one of them is this: the happiest people are those who do most what they do best. In other words, you're gifted, and God's given you a gift to use it and employ it and activate it, and when you do it a lot, guess what? You resonate with his joy. You are blessed. And the special way that he's gifted you and wired you and formed you is what determines how he's going to use you, and that's the plan and the purpose and the destiny that he has. See, the Lord delights in seeing you thrive in the calling you have. We just read 2 Timothy says, we're all to do the work of an evangelist. Well, you're gifted that way and you do it. There's nothing more exciting. There's nothing more special. There's nothing more fulfilling. But the vision part is this. He gives you what I call glimpses, little flashes of what your life is like when you're operating in the gift that he's given you, in the calling that he's given you. And I believe that this is vision. I know it's true in my life. God will give you vision of what it looks like when you're literally walking in the steps and the plans that he has for you. Now, sadly, many people never experience this. They're so drawn to just the practical and trying to get through each day, fulfill their work responsibilities, live for another weekend until they die. And that is so sad. I believe if you lack vision for your life, you lack joy. And Nehemiah 8:10 says, the joy of the Lord is our strength. If you lack vision for your life, you lack hope. Proverbs 13:2 says that hope deferred makes the heart sick. So if you're joyless and heartsick, it may be that you're lacking vision. Again, Proverbs 29:18, the New King James Version says this, where there's no vision, the people perish. Now, that doesn't mean if you don't have vision, you just curl up and die. But what it does mean is that the hopes that you have for your future, that the prospects you have for your hope and your joy and your purpose, they don't thrive. They sort of become atrophy. Vision. What is vision? Webster's definition is a manifestation to the senses of something immaterial. But the more theological definition is this. When I talk about vision, here's what I'm talking about. A supernatural glimpse of your divine destiny. A call to your divine purpose. Now, your divine purpose may be colossal, but it may be simple. But it's divine. It's from the Lord. You've probably had vision in your life and walked out your vision for simple things. Maybe when you got married, when you started having children. Maybe a ministry that you started. Something was in your mind's eye, and it was fulfilled. And I believe God shows you this. He shows you the path for your life. He shows you what it is he wants you to commit your time and your energy and your resources to. And that is a path that leads to fullness of joy. In fact, David even says in Psalm 16:11, he says this, you will show me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy. At your right hand is pleasure forevermore. See, God has a plan for you. It's the path for your life. And in it, you'll resonate with vision and with pleasure. Remember, the happiest things, people are those that do most, what they do best, because God created them that way. And when they're walking in the fullness, they're doing the very thing they're created for, and there's pleasures forevermore. It's this path. And I want to say this. You may not see the whole path. I've been living this way for a while. I've never seen the whole stretch of path, but just enough to take a few obedient steps until maybe it turns, and another few obedient steps, and having enough glimpse of vision to walk forward and to move towards the destiny that God has for you. But if you don't do this, if you just stay put until they're carefully laid out plan for miles and miles and miles, and you won't embark on the first step until you do, you will perish. Remember what I said. Proverbs 29:18, Solomon, where there's no vision, people just shrivel up and die. Well, they're perished, their hope perishes, the potential of fulfilling God's destiny perishes. See, God gives you these glimpses, and I love when that happens. You know, Acts 2 quotes Joel 2, in the last days, I will pour out my spirit. What will happen? Young men will see vision. Old men will dream dreams. Sons and daughters will prophesy. What is that? Is that real? Is that true? Yes, it's true. You will see vision, young men and women. And old guys like us will just fall asleep and have dreams. But you young people. I mean, just church ministry. I look at Bill. When I first got ordained, it was a church plant in Tennessee. And I wasn't looking to be part of a church plant. I had a great job at Capitol Records in Nashville, high-rise apartment and office. I was working with Garth Brooks and Keith Urban and all these guys every day. And guess what? The Lord was forming a little church at Michael and Debbie Smith's barn. And I go there, and I got vision. I got vision for this. It wasn't even a church. It was just a gathering, and I was ruined. I had to commit to that. leave everything behind, because that was where I was getting vision. And I did. And so I ended up becoming ordained, and that became a church, New River Fellowship. It still exists to this day. And I had a visit, Allie and I had a visit from my close friend, Rob Kruver, probably 6 years later. And he started talking about my mom's church. The Ritters were already part of it. A small church in Zarephath. It was called Zarephath Community Chapel at the time. It had a lot of trouble with church splits and things like that. My mom was on the board. Rob says, I believe God's doing something in our little church. What do you think? Maybe you'd be part of it. Visited. One time, Dave, he was the worship leader. I visited to lead worship while he took a break in a November Sunday. And I'm standing on the stage, and that church had maybe 90 people between the first two services. And got this vision, and then it went away. It was like a glimpse, boom, and it was over. Like, what was that? And the glimpse I had was the room filled, packed, with people just worshiping with all their heart and mind and soul and pouring it out. People of all different ethnicities and ages and backgrounds. But that wasn't really what was happening. But when that happened, I got ruined again. I knew that I needed to commit to that and be part of the team of people to see what was going to happen there. And would you know, over the next 8 years, the church went from nearly 100 to nearly 2,000 people. And that was fulfilled, people pouring out. It starts with vision. God gives you a glimpse. Are you willing to be obedient, to take the steps towards the vision he's given you? I had a vision for North Shore Fellowship. The Alliance said we want to plant a church in northern Monmouth County, in a living room in Rumson. But it wasn't just the living room in Rumson, it was Monmouth County. And I would visit here, and I remember coming here and watching the sunrise, and I had this vision as the sun was rising. And you may have heard this before. The sun's rising over like the Sandy Hook area, and there's light coming just into the day for the first time. And I realized it was dark, but that light was hitting Monmouth County first. Then it'll hit the rest of New Jersey and then the rest of America. But, it was hitting us first. And light was coming up, and the verse from Isaiah 60 was so vivid in my mind. Arise, shine, Isaiah 61. For your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the people, but the Lord rises upon you. And that's how I came up with the idea for this logo, the North Shore logo. It's the Lord is rising upon over the water, and people are coming, Gentiles, it says later, are coming to the light. What is the light? It's what I saw happening with North Shore, a place where we're digging into the Word of God, where we're worshiping, where we're fellowshipping, where we're recognizing the importance of the Hebrew roots of our faith. And people in deep, dark lostness are coming out of darkness and into the marvelous light. And that's what we see. And I believe it's going to continue. But again, it starts with vision. God speaks to your heart. Will you respond? This upper room, when we first walked into it, you guys know, it was an archive storage place. There was none of these walls, no stage, of course, no kitchen, nothing, just a bunch of boxes. The floor was concrete, really was not very attractive. And we walked in. I didn't have vision at first because we couldn't find a place. We were really trying hard. This was not really in the eye of our target, the bullseye of our target. But I came upon a box, and there was like old LPs, and one of them it's just the first top. It said, "Jesus paid it all." Whew. Paid what? and when we were looking through our finances about how much it's going to cost to renovate, which is a lot of money, that kept coming back to me. Jesus paid it all. He already has the resources we need, and not just me, but we looked around. We said, "I have vision. We could fit 200 chairs here, probably. We could do a stage, nice video wall. We can make it happen." But it wasn't just the physical build-out. It was the people that would come. As you look out the windows at these neighborhoods, as we see the people driving up and down Route 36 through 35, exit 117, the people that walk in darkness will see a great light. That's the vision. And it's happening. It's beautiful what I see God doing. there's purpose that's attached to the vision that God's giving you. The best-selling Christian nonfiction book of all time is, I don't know if it was one that you wrote, Warren. No, it's by Rick Warren. It's a different Warren altogether. It's called The Purpose-Driven Life. And the reason it sold so many copies is because it tapped into what I'm talking about. It realized that people are desperately seeking purpose in their life. They just want purpose. They want to know that their life matters, that what they're pouring their life into, the time, the effort that they're putting into it means something, has some type of significance. And when we don't have that, we just walk in disillusionment, depression even, meaninglessness. But your life, your family, your job, even the gifts that God gives you are all unfulfilled unless you have a sense of purpose. And what is that purpose? Romans 8:28 tells us this. It says, we know all things work together for good for those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. His purpose. That's a misquoted verse many times. You hear, all things work together for good, don't they? Sort of. All right. All things work together for good for those who love God, right? Well, yeah, in a way, but not entirely. All things work together for good through those who love God and those who are called according to his purpose for your life. That's where it all comes together. That's where the good comes about. And I've found that purpose and vision are so directly related to our calling that you cannot separate them. The Lord has a purpose for your 2025. He really does. When he looks at it, it's a number, but he looks at the life that you'll live in 2025. There's a calling, there's purpose for you, for the life that God's given. So how do you get this vision that I'm talking about? I have two responses. One is you ask, and the other is you wait. You ask. Like I said, we have not because we ask not. Make your requests known. But also, you wait. James 1:5 says this, if any of you lacks wisdom, and you could put vision in there. If any of you lacks this, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. Ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Say, God, I have no vision. I have no idea what I'm going to do with my retirement, with my next year, with my new job, or whatever. Ask. And once you ask, place it in his hands, and then do the hard part. And that is to wait. Psalm 27:13 says, I would have lost heart unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of God in the land of the living. But 14 says, wait on the Lord. Be of good courage. He'll strengthen your heart. But wait, I say, on the Lord. And it means being patient. It means occupying until he comes. It means doing the things that he's given. It means being obedient to carry out the last marching orders you were given. But you're waiting and you're asking. And you realize that Purpose-Driven Life book starts with these 4 words. It's not about you. Right? All things work together for God, for the good of those who love God and are called according to whose purpose? His purpose. Called according to his purpose. Remember the Lord's Prayer. It says, your kingdom come, your will be done. Are you willing to make his objectives your objectives? Putting him first? See, vision is not merely coming up with a really good idea or a premonition. It's not the power of positive thinking. It's like, you know what? I am going to start a new car car company is going to rival Tesla. In fact, I'm taking over Elon Musk's job. That's my vision. Here I go. It's not, when God gives it to you, it's really not about you, but it's about his purpose. That's why it needs to be unselfish. It's like John the Baptist says in John 3:30. He didn't say, I'm going to take over the world. Look out, Jesus. He said, he must increase and I must decrease. God's purposes increase in your life and your selfish ambitions decrease. And watch what happens. Great things will happen. So you need to seek it. And you need to clear the slates. Be willing on New Year's Eve to say, okay, I'm going to leave 2024 behind. The past is the past. Sometimes the past will rob you from your future. If you're stuck just laboring over what did not happen, what could have been, it will keep you from stepping forward in full force into the future. Many of us are blinded and discouraged and heartsick and disappointed from things that happened in the past, so we're not willing to ask God for the future. We're not willing to wait on him. Remember, hope deferred makes the heart sick. But Isaiah 43 tells us this in verse 18, do not remember the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it will spring forth. Some versions say, will you not even be aware of it? Shall you not know of it? I will make roads in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. In other words, impossibilities will become possible. Roads in the wilderness, rivers in the desert. Yes. We need to trust God in spite of circumstances. I want to close with these words from Habakkuk. Habakkuk, this minor prophet with a funny name, who lived in a time where it was really difficult. In fact, he even said in Habakkuk 3:17, he says, the crops are failing, the cattle are dying, everything, there's no crops, no food, no sheep, no cattle, everything's a mess. But I will wait upon the Lord. And here's what he says. In verse 1 of chapter 2, he says, I'll stand on my watch. I'll position myself on the rampart. That's the top of the wall that goes around Jerusalem. You could walk it. I will position myself on the rampart, and I'll watch to see what he will say to me and what I will answer if I'm corrected. How many of you have been corrected? You're watching and waiting. Lord, I'm ready to take action. I'm ready to get activated. I'm ready to be commissioned. He says, well, I need you to work on some things in your life. You need to correct that, and this, and the other thing. How will you respond? So again, I'll set myself on the rampart. I'll watch to see what he'll say to me and what I will answer when I'm corrected. And then the Lord answered me and said, write the vision. Make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it. In other words, somebody running can read it because it's so plain and so big. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak, and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. Do you believe that? God has a vision for you for 2024, and it's going to be spectacular. The Message version, Eugene Peterson says what I just said. Here's how he put it in Habakkuk 2, 1 through 3. What's God going to say to my questions? I'm braced for the worst. I'll climb to the lookout tower and scan the horizon. I'll wait and see what God says and how he'll answer my complaint. And then God answered, write this. Write what you see. Write it out in big block letters so that it can be read on the run. The vision message is a witness pointing to what's coming. It aches for the coming. It can hardly wait, and it doesn't lie. If it seems slow in coming, wait. It's on time. It's on its way. It will come right on time. Understand, friends, that God truly loves you. He does. And he has a wonderful plan for your life. And it starts right now.